Howdy, Maple World. Today I wanted to talk to y'all about something to be mindful of. So, here in Texas, we get a lot of sun to our trees, and a lot of times our trees get more sun than they would probably like or appreciate. Now, the tree has a way of letting you know that it's getting too much sun early on. So, maples, I think most Japanese maples want to be green, so to speak. Their leaves want to be green. Now, there are a lot of red-leaved varieties such as Bloodgood Emperor 1, and of course all the red uprights and red weeping. Those produce a lot of red pigmentation. This red pigmentation is better whenever it gets more sunlight. If you put in a lot of shade, it'll turn green. The red pigmentation is actually a way for Japanese maples to put sunscreen on themselves. So it's a way to help minimize sun damage to the leaves. The leaves turn red whenever they get a lot of sunlight. This here that I'm showing you, for example, is my first flame. As you can see, most leaves are green. This branch right here gets a lot of sunlight, more so than the rest of the tree, and has remained red since leafing out. This palmatifolium is a very sun-tolerant cultivar. As you can see here, it's producing a little bit of redness around the leaves. That means that, hey, I'm getting a lot of sun, I'm doing okay, I'm not crisping up, I'm not getting a lot of damage, but I'm producing this red pigment just to let you know that I'm getting a little bit more sun. I think of it as just the tree's way of letting me know that it's getting some sun. So it's producing this red pigment in response to getting more sun. I want to tell y'all how I use this information. Here, for example, is hot sauce. It produces a lot of red pigmentation. The leaves that aren't getting a lot of sun have kind of started to turn green, but the leaves that are kind of on the more exposed parts of the plants are still bright red. So I want to show y'all what I did. So here's my collection right here. There was one plant in particular that I used this information to take better care of it, and that's this Yamakagi right here. So Yamakagi is a green-leafed japonicum, and I had it sitting out in a lot of sun, and as you can see, after it leafed out, shortly after it leafed out, it started producing a lot of red pigmentation to the leaf. More than I would like. It is a green japonicum. I know this plant. I know that it's not supposed to be red leafed. I just got it this season, and it's newly transplanted. It's not established yet. After leafing out, it looked green for a couple of weeks, and then it started producing red pigmentation. It started producing a lot of red pigmentation very early on in the season. And so I said, okay, that's your way of letting me know that you're getting too much sun too quickly. You're not yet established. So I moved it to a little bit shadier spot, and it looks much happier. You can see it had already produced, it already has a little bit of burning to some of the leaves, but most leaves look intact. It looks healthy right now. And that's because I looked at it and I responded to it quickly. This, for example, is a very similar japonicum that's been sitting here in the shade since leafing out, and it's totally green. You can see the difference. This is Vodifolium, by the way. You can see the difference. It's green versus here. This should have a similar shade to the Vodifolium, but the Yamakagi is red. You can use this technique, of course, to help brighten some of the red uprights, such as Emperor 1, Tamuki, or something weeping like Tamukiyama. So the other thing, this is, for example, Baton Rouge. It's doing well. It's producing a little bit of red pigmentation, but overall it's doing well. Same thing here with the seedling. A little bit of redness in some of the more exposed leaves, but overall it's doing great. So I'm not gonna move it. Now you have to know your plant whenever you use this technique. If it is, of course, something like this Murasaki Kiyohime, a little bit of sun exposure helps bring out the redness a little bit longer. And I think that's the secret to making something like this Ijima Sunago do better. It has more color in the sun. Its leaves are tolerating it. There's no crispiness to the leaves or anything. It's tolerating a lot of sun, and it's keeping this red pigmentation that it leafed out with a lot longer into the season, and is mixing this red pigment with its summer colors to produce this really nice, it's not really coming out well in this here. If I use this, it'll let me move a little bit to kind of just create this really nice orange shade. So I'm using this to make my Ijima Sunago to make its colors pop a little bit more. I'm putting it in more sun and I'm watching it carefully. Its leaves look pristine. Just the red pigment in it is lasting a lot longer because I'm giving it a lot more sun exposure. Now there is one important thing that I should say, and that's the yellows. There are a lot of yellow cultivars out there that tend to whiten, not pink up. They tend to whiten whenever they get more sun. This is a very, very unhappy plant. It's Usumidori, and as you can see here, the leaves there's a lot of white, and it's not loving it. Here is another one. You can see a lot of whiteness on the leaves. We call it bleaching sometimes. This is Winoyama, and of course Jordan over here. You can see that it's getting a little bit too much sun. The leaves are whitening out and kind of crisping up a little bit. Of course the yellows tend to be a little bit more sun intolerant than a regular green or red Japanese maple. Another one, kind of to see here, this is supposed to be a green upright called Western Birch Red, and as you can see here, it's supposed to be green, and this time it's getting a little bit of sun, and it has a lot of red leaves. If you look at the more shaded leaves, they're green, again for those same reasons. Now this is important. If you give a plant a lot of sun, the fall colors are going to be a little bit more red. If you give the plant less sun, you're going to kind of bring out the yellows in the fall colors a little bit more, and that's kind of part of it. So the more sun it gets, the more redness. If something is like Osakizuki is going to turn red, giving it more sun is going to bring out that red a lot more than if you kept it in the shade during the fall. All right, that's it. Thank you guys.